What's going on, gentlemen? It's your boy Real Bear, and today I'm going to chat a little bit about my thoughts on RuneScape, having completed all of the Novice quests as a completely blind and guideless Ironman. In the description of every video, I've had 3 questions, and so today I'm going to try to answer them to the best of my ability. They're completely subjective based on my experience with the game. The goal is just to put my thoughts out there and have a conversation with you guys about it. So, without any further ado, 3 questions are: is RuneScape beginner friendly in 2026? How does OSRS compare to World of Warcraft and other MMOs? And what makes it so special? The first question I want to tackle is, was it truly beginner friendly for me as a brand new player? And to me, the answer was yes. One of the first things that I did was go talk to the Lumbridge guide after the tutorial island recommended that I go do that. He told me how to make gold, he told me to go do the Cook's quest, and kind of gave me some answers on things I could do. So once I realized how good questing was, I made quest my new goal. And I think that once I realized that I could adjust how the quests are presented to me when you open up the quest list interface, I got a lot more direct goals that I could complete, because when the quests aren't necessarily organized by difficulty, then there's no real way to know what you can and can't do without going through the whole list all the time. And the quest difficulties were really nice for me to get an idea of what I could do at my level. I had almost all of them available to me, and it was just a matter of doing them. I think if you lock in on trying to do an intermediate quest or something too soon because you're not really sure what you can do, you're going to be stuck grinding for a long time. So I think it definitely would have helped me if the default quest organization was based on difficulty, because that was something I had to set manually, and it made it a little more difficult to understand what I could do. I also played on RuneLite, and I think that helped a lot as well. It gave me more information on the map, but the RuneLite client also shows you a bunch of things that might take away from your fun. I think the idea that if you see something cool, you should check it out is absolutely something that rings true for RuneScape. There's so much cool stuff in this game that you can just stumble on and check out, especially quests. There's so many quests that I just kind of stumbled on when I was getting started, and you can see them on the map too. So you go to a new area, you open up your map, you take a look at it and see, oh, there's a quest here, and fishing contest. That sounds fun. I like fishing. Let's go check it out. I really like that aspect of RuneScape. And I think the biggest thing is that all of the players that I met and actually interacted with in game were really nice. I think back to maybe it was my 2nd or 3rd episode where a player was sailing and he actually came in and saw me mining in the Lumbridge swamp. I said hello and everything, but his first thing was, there's better places to do that mining. I can help show you them, and I can give you some resources so that you don't have to do this, because it's really a pain in the butt. And to me personally, that shows that they're enjoying the game and are eager for new people to come in and play, which I think is really important for an older MMO. And I think the last thing is that once you kind of figure out how the game works with using items and examining them to get some hints on what some things you need to do are, and just reading all of the quest text and getting a true holistic view of what you're supposed to do for your quest objectives, the game does end up feeling pretty intuitive. There's only been a couple of instances where I felt like the game strayed from what it had taught me, if that makes sense. That was a big concept in game design when I was learning it, was that if you teach somebody that red doors can be opened and then you show them a green door and expect them to know to open it, that's not going to be their first thought, right? Like, I think back to Skippy and the Mogres, where I was trying to use a item with water to wake this guy up because he was super drunk. But what I needed to do was right-click Skippy and use the sober up option. It wasn't as simple as using the item on him. And they had a good reason for it, but I had so many quests where that was the right answer, to use the item on the person. Especially the Monk's Friend quest. That guy was drunk as well, and I had to use a jug of water on him to hydrate him and get him to a point where he was actually sentient again. But by and large, once you kind of understand how the game uses items and how to interact with things, I was never confused on what I needed to do to get an NPC to use an item or to give them something, which says a lot for an older game. I think back to when I tried to play EverQuest, and that game was really difficult to understand. There were just so many levels of interacting with NPCs that you kind of had to understand before you could really comfortably play the game. And I never got to that point. I remember I got to like the 30s and I still didn't really understand what was happening. But RuneScape is really good in that way. I feel like for a new player, if you take the time to figure out the game a little bit, then it, relatively speaking, respects what it's taught you and tries to follow that up. And even a lot of the newer quests that I did still felt like some of the older quests in how you use items and interact with them. So I never felt like the new quests were more difficult or less janky, because they still followed the core RuneScape mechanics, which is really cool. I think the biggest thing for the game being beginner friendly is the massive skill guide UI overhaul that they did partway through my challenge, I've had it for a couple of weeks now, and it is genuinely amazing. It took away a lot of the fear that I had about checking out new skills. Like Hunter was something I was kind of nervous about because I had no idea how to do any of that. But the skill guide said, well, this is what you can do to get started. You can buy your tools here. The tutor is here. Here's the best way to get to the location to start doing Hunter. I think a lot of the things that you would have needed to look up or getting started online were in game now, and that is huge. Especially as a new player, you want as many of those tools to be in game as possible, because the more obstacles a new player has to getting the information that they need and continuing to play the game, the more likely they are to leave. You know, a lot of the things that I wish I would have known when I started were actually alleviated by this UI update, because all of that information is now in the game and ready for you. So I think that the update they did helped me personally a lot. I think that new players that are entering the game will have a lot of their questions answered easier and faster because of that update. So that was a super good update for them to do. It was really good. Now I want to talk about how old school RuneScape compares to WoW and some of the other MMOs that I've played, because I've played quite a few of them. I think that RuneScape has by far the best questing. I really liked how their dialogue is structured. I feel like the writers understood how a regular player can feel during some of these goofy quests and with some of these goofy NPCs. And the puzzles in these quests were awesome. A few that come to mind are like the Death Plateau, Colored Ball quests, Recruitment Drive had some really cool puzzles. And then the Manor quests as well were just really fun for a novice player. There were a few in the Draenor Manor and things like that that were just incredibly fun to work around, because everything that you needed for the puzzle was there for you to get. You just had to kind of figure out how to use it. So I think those quests specifically helped me get used to interacting with things in the game and through my inventory. There's a lot of item combination and examining and ways that you can get hints that I think a lot of people who use guides only for quests would be confused by and maybe frustrated. I think the other biggest thing about RuneScape compared to a lot of MMOs that I played is that there are no classes. You can just do everything, and that was really cool because, especially in World of Warcraft, the only classes that have portals are mages. So if you want a portal somewhere else or the quality of life of faster travel, you have to either have one or pay them to send you over there, right? Whereas in RuneScape, if I spend time leveling my magic and I have the runes that I need, I can do it myself, and that was really nice. And that just speaks to RuneScape being easier to go through as a solo player. I think that is a massive plus for RuneScape as well. Every single MMO that I've played, if you want to make meaningful progress with your character, especially at endgame, you gotta have a group. And I just haven't felt like I needed to group for anything. I don't even know if you can group for stuff. Obviously I'm an Ironman, so I have to do it all solo, but I haven't come across an item that I wanted to get or a quest that I wanted to complete that I wasn't able to do myself. And I really like that. You know, a lot of MMOs have like weekly lockouts for raids or daily lockouts for dungeons. And from what I can tell, RuneScape just lets you keep doing stuff, and that's really nice. I don't like feeling like I'm locked out for the week of what I want to do and I have to just wait an arbitrary amount of time to go in and try it again. Like if I want to farm that Baronite Mace, I just sit in the cave and I kill the goddamn golems over and over again until it drops. And I'm the only person that's needed for that. I don't have to ask anybody else to help. And ultimately it's my own time. That's something I like about fighting games too. One-on-one, it's just you. You're the only person that needs to improve, to get better, to win. I think the one standout thing that I've experienced is the Shield of Erev. I had to have somebody else for that, and it felt strange because I was able to do everything myself before, and then this quest comes along where I had to have another player. So I'm really glad that I had another player I could call on, but it was off. You know, it was strange. It's a very solo game. I think the other thing that I think is the largest standout between RuneScape and other MMOs is that you unlock quality of life early and consistently. I feel like I'm always making it easier to do what I want to do in some way, you know? The first thing that comes to mind when I think of a horizontal quality of life upgrade in almost every MMO is a mount. It doesn't necessarily make you more powerful, but it helps you do what you're trying to do faster, right? You unlock your 100% mount in WoW, you can go farm all your materials faster, you can get through town faster. But with RuneScape, something I noticed when I got the Imkondo hammer is that something as simple as saving an inventory spot for you is a massive quality of life bonus that allows you to get through what you're doing just that little bit faster. You have the teleports that you unlock through magic, and those are massive helps as well. You know, every skill has something to make your life easier. Agility with their shortcuts, right? There's so much quality of life you get early, and these impactful items that are just good no matter what level you are, no matter how far you've progressed, you can still get early. And again, I want to say the Imkondo hammer is a great example of that. I got Ava's Attractor for ranging. That's incredibly good. And it was the first intermediate quest on the list. It didn't require that much to unlock. So I think that that is a massive plus for the game. I think a lot of MMOs struggle with not giving enough to their players early when they're leveling. So it can feel kind of boring when you're leveling up, just feel like a chore, when I think leveling is a strength of the old MMOs. I really enjoyed leveling in Classic WoW my first time around. I've done it so much now that I try to get through it quickly, but Final Fantasy XI Online, I loved leveling up in that game. It was so fun. The abilities you unlocked were really impactful. You got access to new zones. It had a storyline much like the modern MMO that you could run through. I think it's the ability to make memories while you're leveling up, because that friction that you have before you get these quality of life things is good. It makes you appreciate the quality of life that you do unlock, and I feel like RuneScape doesn't let you feel that friction too long. Like, by the time that you're able to appreciate unlocking something, you probably have it, right? And I think that is a huge strength of RuneScape. I think of Guild Wars 2, where you can get all these awesome mounts and a glider and all these amazing ways to get through the world, and you can't unlock them until max level because you can't really access the DLCs. That's tough as a new player, to see everybody else with all of this awesome quality of life and be told, no, you got to put in your 20 hours or so to get to that, right? Whereas in RuneScape, they said, oh, you want to get your teleports? All right, go get like level 31 magic. It won't take you too long, but you'll be glad you did it. And I really appreciate that. I think something else I'm appreciating about RuneScape is how they can keep the content relevant, and they are so careful about what they add to not invalidate things that people have done, because you think of the modern MMO landscape and it's new patches, better equipment, stronger weapons, new raids, and so all of that time that you spent farming all the stuff for your character last patch doesn't matter anymore because the new stuff's out. And I realized that pretty early on with World of Warcraft, and that actually is the reason I stopped playing, because I play a lot of video games. But I don't want to waste my time. And knowing that every, 6 to 8 months, something new is going to come out and I'm going to have all of that time that I put in wasted, I don't want to do it. You can see the hamster wheel. And that's something that I think is a strength of Classic WoW, is that some of the raids you do right at the start of the game have items that'll carry you all the way to the end game. And that's really cool, or at least for most of it, right? So, every time a rare drop comes up in RuneScape and you see the name come across the top of your screen, I know I'm going to have it for a while, and that's a really good feeling. I think for me, the biggest change from MMOs up front as a new player day one was combat. I didn't have abilities that I was pressing. You just click the enemy and attack them. Combat has gained good depth though as I've leveled up, checked out Slayer, and started to pay attention to what monsters are weak to. That has made it more enjoyable to level, because then it becomes less about what do I need XP in, let me just do that combat to what is the most effective way to fight these guys, because that'll give me the most XP for that combat. Like, I think back to fighting ghosts as magic using wind spells, and they have a 50% weakness to it. I was getting so much XP because I was doing so much damage, and I really had a lot of fun with that. And that's another interesting part about combat too. You're not getting XP based off of the enemy when you kill it, like in every other MMO. It's based off your damage. So if you find a cow, for example, right in the starter zone, they have 8 HP. I was training on those for a long time because 8 HP is a good amount. I'm not doing 8 damage. I'm doing, 2s and 3s here and there. So you could beat on a cow for a little bit and it's fine. And them having low defense is good because you're getting the same XP whether you hit for 3 damage on a cow or 3 damage on a minotaur, right? So it feels like more enemies matter longer than other MMOs in RuneScape, just purely for that utility of HP being the main factor in XP, because you only get XP based off damage dealt. OSRS is also really different in bag space. You're fighting all these enemies, you gotta have a place to put all your stuff. Every MMO I've ever played, you have a bag, of course, but you can get other bags that are bigger, so you end up growing how many slots of items you can carry as you go. Up to this point, the only thing I've gotten to improve my inventory space inside of my inventory was the pouches that let me hold rune essence. That's it. And I really like that they haven't introduced bags to the game, because when you get an item that you can equip, or you have a way to save inventory slots with an item, like in Auburn Vale, I could buy an item to hold multiple bowstrings in one slot. That's really important. It's really impactful, because there's a choice that I have to make when I'm leaving the bank on what I want to take with me. I can't just have everything, because World of Warcraft Classic, my bag would be full of just random shit I was going to use in raid to buff myself up. And it got a little wild after a while, trying to figure out what buffs I can actually use and which ones I don't need, and making sure you have enough potions and this and that. Like, it got crazy. And I know that RuneScape has some potions and stuff like that too, but it's cool to have to decide what activity I want to do at the bank, prepare for that, and go do that. I can't just have everything on me at once. Like Final Fantasy, for example, if you want to be a lumberjack, you just swap to that armor set and you're good to go, right? Your inventory stays the same because all of that stuff is held elsewhere. And because of that, where you are in the world feels really impactful too. If I go to a city that doesn't have an anvil and I'm trying to do some smithing, that's going to suck. Because we're going to have to go from that city's bank to some crazy far off place and back. It's just not efficient, right? So I've found that I pay attention more to where I am and what types of things are there, because crafting is done through locations in the world, which I think is really cool. I think the big thing that comes to my mind with World of Warcraft is that blacksmithing and engineering usually need anvils, but almost everything else you can just do yourself. There is that to an extent in RuneScape, but if you want to spin stuff, you got to go to a loom. If you want to create new armor, you go to the smithy. You know, if you want to do hunter, you got to go to the jungle or the desert or something, you know? So I end up paying attention a lot more to what is in an area, and I like that Jagex does too. They're very considerate of what goes into a zone so that they don't invalidate other places that are used. I feel like I use the entire world of RuneScape for what I need to do, not just one piece of it, which is really cool. Now I want to talk a little bit about what has made RuneScape so special to me as I've been playing it, because I really have fallen in love with the game. And I think the main thing for me is the questing. I just really love the questing. I can recall so many moments where the quest text has perfectly captured how I feel in the moment, and I can't help but laugh. You know, you got like the dread frog coming out of the water in that Ribbit quest, and even in a more serious side, like doing the Temple of the Eye and the Abyss quests, there's some cool lore in RuneScape and some stories to be told there that I wasn't expecting. I found myself really interested in these groups in RuneScape, who they are, why they do what they do, because the stories of these quests were so interesting. The novice quests don't touch on all of that too much, but the exciting thing is that those stories are there, and I've gotten a small piece of it with some of the intermediate quests. I think the other big thing for me is the puzzles I talked about. I think that is a really standout part of RuneScape from other MMOs. Guild Wars 2 has some stuff like this in certain places, but puzzles are a large part of the novice quest that I've done, and I really enjoy that. I grew up not liking puzzles because I would get frustrated too quick, but now it's a fun way to test my knowledge of the game. Or in the example of the mansion quests, how can I get out of this crazy situation? And it's just a fun little escape room almost that's been set up for you, and I really enjoyed that. I think something that's made RuneScape so special for me as well is the ability to get these really crazy rare items relatively early. Like, the fact that I have an Abyssal Lantern right now is kind of mind-boggling, because people can hit level 99 rune crafting and still not get that. The progression of my character and the quality of life that I've gotten has come so early, and that makes me feel like every time I log in, I'm meaningfully progressing my character. Like, I can do a few dungeons on World of Warcraft here or there and increase my XP bar, but did I really get stronger for that little bit I logged in? Whereas RuneScape, every single time that I come in, I'm getting something. I'm getting a level in this, a level in that, generating XP for something that maybe next level lets me get a huge power spike. It's just really exciting every time that I log in. I think aside from the quests, you guys, like the community interaction from the YouTube channel has just been a blast. You know, while I'm sitting here editing my videos, I'm just getting excited to play more because I want to experience more of the game, but I'm also really excited to upload the videos so that I can hear from you guys and share in the fun of the journey, you know? With RuneScape feeling like it can be a very single player oriented game, it's fun to have social interaction outside of it. And that was something I really cherished about World of Warcraft Classic, was that there's a level of friction that requires you to interact with other people. And I met a lot of really good, fun people through that friction. And a lot of modern MMOs try to remove that friction to make it easier for people to play. But I think you lose out on the greatest strength of an MMO, which is the community and the people who play it. It's been nice doing a single player challenge and still being able to get that social interaction, because for me personally, that's one of the most important things about an MMO. And when I'm trying out new MMOs, I always try to have a friend there with me so we can explore it together, because that's how you make the memories. If I do something by myself, I could be funny, but then I have to try to explain it to somebody else. But there's a common ground that you have with MMOs because everybody playing it has experienced the same things as you, right? And RuneScape is unique in that way also, in that everybody's journey is their own. The unique path that I'm taking through RuneScape is unique. I doubt that anybody has followed the same exact path as me because we've gotten unique items. We've chosen to do X over Y over Z, and that has also made RuneScape feel very special to me as well. The sandbox style of RuneScape where you can choose your own way is just so much fun. I get excited about achieving my own goals, and World of Warcraft Classic was really good about that as well. When you log in, you get to do what you want to do, and nobody's telling you or putting arbitrary goals in front of you to say that this is what we want you to do. And RuneScape has been really good about that as well. That's why I get so excited to play, because I decided that I wanted to get the Baronite Mace, and I decided to sit in that cave for 2 days because I wanted it. I think not having any guides has made it really special because I have no idea what's coming. When I get an interesting item or there's a cool looking NPC with a quest, all of that just feels so fresh. I feel like it can hit a point with some games where if all you're doing is following a guide, then isn't that just an exercise in following instructions? It's been nice to have the wiki available to look at drop rates on an enemy. I remember I was farming barbarians early on, and it was one of my commenters who suggested, hey, rather than fight these guys 100 times to know that they can't drop a weapon, just look it up and save yourself the time, because that's not ruining my adventure, that's saving me time. And I've really appreciated having the wiki as a tool for that, but I could only imagine you first load into the game, you have no idea what's going on, you look up a new player guide, and you get a 30-minute video or something like that explaining the most efficient way to play the game when you don't even know the game that you're playing. I've appreciated those guides for something like World of Warcraft because I've played it so much. I want to get through it fast. I've already done it. But as a new player, I think that can be harmful because you're never really learning the game or how to interface with it. You're just given a set of instructions hoping that you can get through it, I feel like the way that I've been going through the game has helped prepare me to understand how to read a guide in the future if I start another account or something, right? Because I already know how to interact with the game. I know how to get around because you guys have helped me out with learning about teleports and things. I'm not going to be confused by any of that. And I feel like the Grand Exchange is damaging as a new player, because if I can buy everything with in-game money and I never have to go out and find it myself, then it's more comfortable for me to farm gold and buy it and then go out and do the quest, right? Ironman forces you to go out of your comfort zone constantly to learn the game, but through doing that, it becomes comfortable and easy and fun, right? Like, it is cool that you can buy so much off the Grand Exchange in RuneScape, but I'm glad I don't have it. And I would push people who have played World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy to do that also, because a lot of the stuff that you're going to be getting that's really genuinely good in something like World of Warcraft, you can't buy. So I think players are sort of used to that. I mean, personally, I played WoW for 20 years, and RuneScape in a lot of ways feels like how WoW feels when I hit max level. I can just choose whatever I want to go do and do it and get stronger for it, and I really like that. Leveling in a lot of MMOs can just feel like a means to an end, and I feel like RuneScape, that is the journey, because so much quality of life is involved with it that it doesn't feel like I'm leveling because I want to hit max level. As an Ironman, I feel like leveling is just something that's happening on the side, because if I need food, I'm going to go fishing or thieving. If I need gold, I'm going to do sailing or thieving. I need to make potions, and I need to make new armors and weapons and all of that stuff, so I'm getting XP from that, which is nice, and I'm unlocking better stuff, but I'm not doing it just to hit, level 40 fishing. I'm just fishing because I need food, right? And that has also made leveling a more enjoyable experience for me because I don't have a direct line to the end of the game to see what I'm missing. So the small goals that I've been setting for myself have been really healthy, I think, for making sure that I can achieve them in a reasonable amount of time. I think back to how I play World of Warcraft, and I don't like leveling anymore because I just want to raid and do the end game stuff. So as a new player, if all you know is the end game and all you see are the things that you can't do, then suddenly everything else becomes a chore and a hurdle to overcome to get to that stuff. So being an Ironman with no guides, completely blind, has helped me to stay focused on what's right in front of me, make goals based off of what I can see and what I have unlocked, and enjoy what I have. So overall, I feel like RuneScape is just a really special game. It's grown on me a lot. It does a lot of things better, in my opinion, than other MMOs. Other MMOs do things better, of course, but the things that RuneScape does well, it really does well. I'm excited to keep going and get through these intermediate quests, continue to level up. We're starting to get to some of the really cool stuff, and ultimately, I appreciate you guys for helping with gentle suggestions here and there to shape the journey with me, to make it our journey. That's been such a massive part on why this game is so special for me. I couldn't have done it without you guys, so thank you very much. We're going to do this again when we get to the end of all our intermediate quests. We'll do another little check-in. But for any of you guys that are on the fence, do an Ironman. Do it blind. Unless you're really, really confused, avoid the guides because you're going to have so much of a better time in RuneScape if you just take the bull by the horns and see what's out there and make your own adventure. And you're going to have memories to share with other people who have played RuneScape in a unique way, because we've all ultimately gone through this journey, but the unique way that you go through it is going to be different from how I do it, and that's something that I want to hear about, and that's something that I think is worth sharing. So thank you guys so much. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.